Okay, the meeting's actually being opened by Dr. Shaver Hood tonight, I believe.
Okay. Good evening. Today is May 6th, our school committee meeting. It is 7 o'clock, so I call the meeting to order. Our first order of business is to reorg the committee after the election. And so now I will open the floor for nomination of the chair of the school committee. So do I have any nominations?
I would like to nominate Mary.
Okay, Mary? Do I have I don't have to have a second. Do I have any other nominations?
Kim, I have my hand up. Is that
Oh.
an appropriate thing to use?
Sure. Sorry, I didn't even look at that, Jeff. All right. Jeff
Okay.
Sweat.
Thank you. I would like to nominate Kevin Brijoli.
Okay, Mr. Brijoli.
As I would like to respectfully decline that nomination, because I even though I'm grateful for it, I think I'm maybe a year away from that role, if at all. But I'd like to nominate Joyce Bakayaki.
Okay. Joyce Bakayaki is nominated. Do I have any other nominations? Okay, so we have Mary Morgan and Joyce Bakayaki. So we'll do, the first was Mary Morgan. So all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Okay. Joyce Bakayaki, all in favor of Mrs. Bakayaki, please say aye.
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 Okay, so it is 2 votes to 3. So Mrs. Bakayaki is the chair of the school committee. So I now turn it over to the new chair.
So I just want to say thank you. I also would have been in support of the nomination for Kevin Brijoli, but I respect his wishes tonight. And I do appreciate the votes and the confidence in me to be chair. It's a privilege for me, and I do very much appreciate it. So the next thing that we would do is look for nominations for the vice chair of the school committee. If anyone would like to make a nomination for vice chair.
Yes. I'd like to nominate April.
Okay, thank you, Mary. Are there any other nominations, Jeff?
Yes, I'm going to try again. I'd like to nominate Kevin Brijoli for vice chair.
Okay, thank you. So are there any other nominations? We have one for Kevin, one for April. So all those, if we're going to do a roll call vote because we are on Zoom. So first we'll take April's nomination. So Mary, yes or no for April's
Yes.
nomination?
Yes.
April,
Yes.
Kevin,
No.
Jeff,
No.
and myself, no. So it's 2-3-0. Next, we'll go to the nomination for Kevin. We'll do a roll call vote. Jeff,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
April,
No.
Mary,
No.
and myself, yes. So 3-2-0 in favor of Kevin being vice chair. Right, did I say that right? Yes. Next, we'll go to the position of secretary. Would
I would
anyone?
like to nominate Mary.
Okay. Are there any other nominations for secretary?
I was going to nominate April.
As much as I would appreciate, unfortunately, to the role of secretary, my job doesn't entail me to do a lot of computer access throughout the day, and my hours can be somewhat unpredictable. So I feel it wouldn't be fair to the committee for me to be able to record appropriately.
Okay. Thank you,
But I
April.
thank you, Kevin.
So are there any other nominations for secretary?
I'd like to nominate Jeff.
That's very kind of you, Mary. But as I just got back on the committee, I think, and you have so much experience with the committee, I will certainly defer to you. So I'll decline the nomination.
So Mary, I guess I would just ask you, so if you're nominating Jeff, are you willing to accept the nomination for secretary for yourself?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, good. So we'll do a roll call vote. Kevin?
Yes.
No, we're voting for Mary Morgan for secretary. April?
Yes.
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
And myself, yes. So 5-0-0 for Mary for secretary. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. So we will go back now to the agenda. I guess I would just at this point mention that we are being recorded by WCTV, that we are using Zoom, so our votes will be roll call. And the first thing I just wanted to do is congratulate April on her reelection and welcome Jeff back to the committee. And also thank the other two candidates who ran. So thank you to Brennan McKiernan and thank you to Ron Bessie. I hope that both of them will take this opportunity and be involved in the school. I spoke with one of the candidates. I hope to speak to the other one and really encourage them to be involved and going forward. So and I guess that's it under that. So we'll move to the next item on the agenda, which I guess before public participation, we're voting on the payment procedures appointment. We'll just follow the agenda. So we would vote a bill warrant designee. Dr. Shaverhood, remind me, right now, is it set as a person or is it set as a position?
It's set as a position.
Okay.
And so if
So-
we, I'm sorry, if
No,
we could just keep the chair and then we would need to have the designee, that would be something that the committee would need to vote on, of course, but just to make sure that we have backup so we can always have signatures would be very helpful.
Okay, so right now, the bill warrant alternate designee is the vice chair. Is that
Mhm.
correct? And the payroll designee is the chair and the alternate is the vice chair also?
Yes.
Okay. Does anyone have any suggestions, other than that? Would anyone like to? April, go ahead.
My suggestion was just to keep it as it was with the chair, then the vice chair, then the secretary, as it had been in the past. I believe that's what was voted the last couple of years, and it seemed to have worked out well.
Right. Yes, and I think I said this the last time when we were talking about this. 5 years ago, when I came on the committee, we didn't get the warrants the way we do now. We had to come into the building and look at the warrants and go through a pile of papers. And only those of us who came into the building, I think they needed 2 signatures at the time. We were the only ones who saw those warrants. So the way that we're doing it now is so much better, where we're all getting it electronically. We all have the opportunity to see all the bills that are being paid. Not that it wasn't available to every school committee member before it was. It just wasn't as easy to see it. So I don't know about everyone else, but I really appreciate that method, that we're using now and being able to do it. So even though I just wanted everyone who's listening or watching to know that even though we're only talking about 2 people signing off, every school committee member receives these warrants, payroll and bill warrants, before they're paid, and has the opportunity to ask whatever questions that they want. So with that, I would just ask for a motion to approve the bill warrant designee as the chair, the alternate as the vice chair, the payroll designee as the chair, and the alternate as the vice chair.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we'll do a roll call. Jeff,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes, with the question, do we have to also say the secretary would be one of the alternate designees?
I don't believe it's set that way now, but we could. Would you like to?
Well, I thought when we did the policy subcommittee, that's sort of what we decided, that it would be 3 people instead of just 2.
Under the page, the payroll or under the bill pay?
Thought it was both, but maybe That's how I remember the policy subcommittee discussing it.
Okay. So we could go backwards then, and we could withdraw the motion at the second and make a new motion for that?
I'll withdraw the second.
Withdraw the motion.
Okay. April, do you want to make that new motion?
Yep, I'd like to make a motion that the order of designate would go from chair, vice chair, and secretary should the previous two be unavailable per the policy review subcommittee's recommendation.
Second,
Okay. Roll call, Kevin,
Yes.
April,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Jeff,
yes.
and myself, yes. 500. Okay. And now we will move on to public participation. I'm just going to take a look in the attendees. I don't see anyone in there waiting to speak to the committee. And it is 7:11, so I'm going to move on to the next item on the agenda, which is good news. April, go ahead.
I would like to welcome Jeff back to the committee and congratulate him on his election and thank everyone for re-electing me as well. And hopefully we will, make some amazing decisions for the kids in this town.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Let me second April's thoughts. And I share her aspirations that we make some great decisions. That is why I came back on the committee, and I'm delighted that the voters saw fit to do that. And I hope we can be build great consensus on the things that are important to the kids of this town.
Thank you, Jeff. Anyone else? I just had a couple of things. I know last week, I know it's unusual that we have a meeting 2 weeks in a row. So last week we talked about this week being Teacher Appreciation Week, but I didn't want this week to go by without mentioning that again. Of course, that we very much appreciate all the teachers in the district this week, every day. But I didn't want to let that opportunity go by. And also I wanted to say, I was watching, I know most people in town are aware of what's going on right now with the Boys and Girls Club. So I was watching a meeting the other day where they were addressing that problem and they were brainstorming a solution. And it made me so proud to see that there were at least 2, maybe more, graduates of Wareham High School on that meeting, actively involved in finding solutions, to this closing of the Boys and Girls Club. Joanne Gamble and Shayla Tavares, both graduates of Wareham, actively involved when they were in high school and now still actively involved in their community. So it's really, really great to see that. So I just wanted to mention them. And if no one, April, go ahead. April, do you have your hand up?
It's Christine.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I didn't realize I was muted. I'm so sorry. I did just want to share that Shayla Tavares actually shared some information last night that they were able to come to at least a temporary solution, introducing themselves as the Onset Kids Block at the bridge to the Wareham Onset community, and that they will be working over the next 6 weeks, partnering with the current staff of the Boys and Girls Club, the Onset Bay Center. They'll be working with the band shell and the YMCA, with the schools and everything for their academic support. They did share information on Facebook and on most of the town community pages so that they have been able to come up with a 6-week solution for those kids, and the amount of support and coming together that they all did together to make this happen in such a fast way really just shows what this community really is about. And I couldn't be more proud that these are Wareham graduates and community members that stepped up to put all of their possible divisional things aside with the, Boys and Girls Club and the YMCA could have potentially been seen as competition for each other, working together to make sure that these kids have a place to go and that these families are supported.
Yes, it's really impressive. It really is. Thanks, April. Christine?
I just wanted to give you an update on the track. I have some good news.
Okay.
we went through the complete bid process and we awarded it to Cape Cod Track. And we've also awarded to do the fence work around the track to City Works Corp. And we're hoping that it'll be completed before the start of the next school year. There is a little bit of back delay on some of the products, as you know, as the world we're living in today. So I'm glad we started early. The process started early, but they're on board, and I'll keep you posted on the schedule. But like I said, our hope and intent is to have the fence around the track and the track completed before the opening of the new school year.
Wow,
Great.
that's great. Thank you, Christine.
You're welcome.
Jeff?
I just want to say that you have a ton of coaches and players who are thrilled to be back playing as of Monday, practicing and then matches. A short time later, the spring season is going to be a great one. And speaking directly for the tennis team, we are thrilled to be back on the courts.
Great. What is the on the other end? So when will the season end?
Well, our last match is June 15th, but then the state tournament, which we aspire to be eligible for again, starts probably something like the 18th, may go through the weekend of the 19th and the 20th. So technically it ends July 3rd, but I think most people would expect it to be finished before the end of June.
Wow. Okay, thanks, Jeff. All right, so we will move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the recognition of Chief Walsek and the welcome to the new police chief, Walter Correa. I know that Dr. Shaverhood wanted to say something.
Right. Yes, I just want to acknowledge the help, the support of Chief Walsek over the time he was in the department. He will be sorely missed, but we also know that our new chief will do a wonderful job. I've already met with him, and I look forward to having a wonderful working relationship as we did with Chief Walsek. He wasn't able to come tonight because he's very busy in his retirement. He's teaching at the academy, but he did express his thanks, and he will miss us. So I just wanted to go on record because the relationship that we have with the Wareham Police Department is certainly a very supportive and beneficial one for everyone in our school community.
Thank you. He will definitely be missed. Okay, we'll move on to the next item, which is the report from our student rep, Emily Roberge, who I'm not sure is here. I don't see her here tonight. But if she does join us later, we'll come back to this item and hear from her if she's able to come on later. The next item is the budget transfers and the report of the business manager, Christine Succo.
In your packet, you received a couple of pages of budget transfers as we continue to review and prepare for the end of the year. I will be bringing you budget transfers as needed. These were requests from different departments within their own budgets, and there's no change to the bottom line.
Okay,
It's just moving one monies from one account to the other, but it doesn't change the bottom line that was appropriated at town meeting.
mm-hmm. Jeff?
Christine, I notice a fairly big transfer into legal. Is that expected to be the last transfer into legal?
I hope so. I hope so. We've been in negotiations this year, so and we're still in negotiations with one of the units. So I hope that it is. That was my projection. So we'll see how close I come.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
April?
I just have a question to clarify. Are these still the continuation of sort of housekeeping and trying to get everything in line with the DESI line items with these transfers?
These transfers are part of that, but there's also, as we prepare to close the end of the year, departments have asked to move money from one line to another, to other supply, or to professional development, or vice versa.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, if there were no other questions, we'll take a motion to approve the transfers.
So moved.
Second.
Second. We're in
Okay.
sync today.
Roll call, Jeff,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
April,
Yes.
and myself, yes. So 500. Next on the
Thank you.
agenda.
That's it for me tonight.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is the tiered focus monitor overview with Melissa Fay.
Hi, sorry, I had to unmute myself.
Melissa?
Hello, good evening, everybody. Thank you. Congratulations, Jeff, and April. Congratulations for your reelection. So we are in the middle of a tiered focus monitoring, which is the old coordinated program review, which probably is what people remember it as. It used to be called a mid-cycle review and coordinated program review. The department has now changed the name to tier focus monitoring, or TFM. So it's been almost 4 years since our last coordinated program review. And we have been preparing for this particular visit for the last year about. They did not halt or pause for the COVID pandemic. They kept right on rolling. So we spent the last year providing DESI with documents, with procedures, with our manuals, with policies that we have. In your packet, you found the civil rights and the special education qualifications that the state looks for and reviews for us. We had to provide files from all different grade levels for them to review, as well as all of those documents that they asked us to upload. There were several interviews with staff members, interviews with myself, with the out-of-district and assistant program coordinator, with Dr. Shaver Hood. So we had a lot of work that went into this review to prepare for our final interview. We did have our final interview in, oh my gosh, I can't even remember. It was 2 weeks ago, I believe. It was the week before, the week after April vacation. And we had some really great news from them. We're just waiting to receive our final report. The final report most likely won't be here for about another 30 to 60 days. And once it is released to the public, we will be sharing the results with the committee in a presentation that's a little bit more formal and informative than this. But if anybody has questions, I'm certainly here to answer any questions for you about what this process has entailed for us. And I'm happy to report that we had no immediate red flags at our meeting with the superintendent and DESI that occurred a couple of weeks ago.
Thanks, Melissa. Does anyone have any questions? April?
Yeah, so my question is just more of a clarify. So the other documents that you sent us, the special ed instrument and the civil rights one, they were dated 2017 to the 2018 school year. Is that something that's because nothing has changed in those policies since then? Or is it standard that those dates would stay the same until, you said, after 4 years?
Now that is that's the most recent volume of what the state has as requirements for this process. So that's
Okay.
the most recent set of data, the most recent informational materials that they have available to share with districts. That is what they have available right now. They have not updated that information since that year.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, Jeff?
So 2 questions. I remember, and I guess it's probably going back a couple of years, we had some concerns about suspensions and disciplinary action. And I think it was specifically at the middle school, but I could be wrong. My memory's a little fuzzy. Does this review covered that sort of thing?
Mhm.
And do you have any feelings as to whether they're going to recognize that we have improved in that area of civil rights?
Yep. So when Dr. Shaverhood and I met with Desi a couple of weeks ago, it was one of the things that we discussed. We are still in the middle of rethinking discipline, which is the initiative that we are required to follow due to the fact that we were identified in that category of having a higher number of suspensions. So we have worked diligently with all of our principals, assistant principals, and deans to make sure that they are all aware of the most recent policies and procedures from the state, all of the 37H, 37H and a half, 37H and 3/4 legislation that kind of governs the special education and the disciplinary removal, emergency removal, long-term suspension and expulsion procedures, and all of the procedures that specifically surround special education and the discipline of students with disabilities. So we spent a lot of time supporting our staff. A member of our department of the Special Education Student Services Department is involved in every single disciplinary action or consideration for all of our students who have disabilities in the district. So we're able to really walk through and support and be a resource for our deans and our assistant principals and our principals as they go through this process. So I think we've improved greatly. We've rewritten a lot of our letters and kind of solidified procedures surrounding it. So I think that we are in a much better place than we were 4 years ago. And we are definitely all participating. I know Kathleen and I right now are participating in the next kind of cohort of rethinking discipline. And then we will end up disseminating that information to the people who are delivering the disciplinary actions at the different schools across the district.
So is it fair to say that someone has to have an IEP or a 504 to get your services, to get you to participate in the review of the disciplinary action?
So for students with disabilities, that's kind of where my area of expertise is. So that's where I would come in, because the civil rights apply to everyone, but the
Right, exactly.
but the specific discipline of students with disabilities is different than it is for the general education population. So there's like a different nuances to it. So I'm involved whenever my principals, the assistant principals, the deans need me, but my area of specialty would be students with disabilities. That's where my training lies.
I understand, but
yeah.
as I learned a long time ago that student services is a lot more than kids with IEPs.
Yes, it is.
And so I'm just thinking about the child, the student who doesn't have that protection, and what kind of representation, if any, do you think is appropriate for that child?
So all of the students have protection, and the laws and the legislation really protect all students. Those are those civil rights pieces. So again, we are very supportive and collaborative with our principals, assistant principals, and deans in our department. So it's not only for special education students that we support across the board. But that civil rights piece is a piece that we're very, we pay a lot of attention to, and make sure that we know all of the most recent legislation, all of the most recent guidance on it from DESE, so that we're able to support everybody to be able to follow through with these procedures with fidelity and do it in a way that's best for children. And we've really done a lot of initiatives around restorative justice and things that are really more positive behavior interventions to try to get away from that traditional kind of punitive suspension, kind of track in dealing with behaviors in the school.
Don't get me wrong. I also hear that the middle school has done wonderful things with respect to the educational environment for all students. So I ask it just because of my memory of a past problem. My second question is, I had a voter reach out to me about protections of students in the LGBTQ community. And as I read this document, and I won't pretend to have read it cover to cover, to say it was lengthy was an understatement. And I thought about the child who hasn't come out, the child who's perhaps quite shy, who's very intimidated. How comfortable are you that someone who is in that community would even let someone know if they were being harassed, bullied, hazed, etc.?
So I think that that's a very interesting question, and I think it's no different from any other child. And so that's what I would say. Like we treat all of our students with the same level of integrity and make sure that we're following all of the rules. And for us, it's always, if we follow the laws and follow the rules and are equitable across all communities of our students, we feel like we'll always be able to support them in a way that is inclusive for all of our members of our community. So, you know, I would say that it would be no different than any other child not coming out and telling us that they're being bullied, and it happens quite a bit. So it's something that we're really working through on social emotional learning, is trying to make sure that students have connections with adults that they trust and are able to really have those avenues to be able to, you know, disclose to people that they trust in places where they feel safe that they're having these struggles, so that we're able to support them in the ways that we are required to support them and that we want to support them as a school community.
So you think guidance counselors, teachers in general, are proactive in reaching out to see if there's a problem?
I believe that we have an incredible staff. And we have resources that districts twice our size, 3 times our size don't have. We have student adjustment counselors, social workers, school psychologists, outside people that come in and do counseling for our students and intervention work for our students. So a board certified behavior analyst, registered behavior techs. I mean, the list just goes on and on of the people that we have to support our students. And social emotional learning is so important for us. It's part of everything that we do. And it's like woven into the fabric of every single thing that we think about with our students, because if they're not socially emotionally ready, then they're not able to learn if we can't prepare them in that way. So I think it's on the forefront of everything we do in our school community. And we have a lot of support and people who are trained in that kind of trauma-informed instruction, who are able to really, you know, support our students in any way possible and really build those relationships and those bridges with our students.
Thank you. It's great to be back interacting with you.
Thank you. You too.
April, did you have a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to say in regards to what Jeff had mentioned about, you know, a few years ago and disciplinary concerns at the middle school, and having been a substitute teacher and seeing how things have changed, I do want to give a great deal of credit to Tracy Cote and her staff at the middle school for really tackling discipline as one of her priorities when she first became the full-time principal at the school. And I do want to also touch base to Jeff's other comment about the voter who reached out about the LGBTQ plus community. I got the same question from that person. And I do feel, at least from what I've witnessed with a son in the high school, and from me seeing some of the students getting some of those supports at the middle school, of how they are able to embrace and try to provide that safe space for children. I hadn't imagined the level of braveness that some of these kids have, just some of them just already knowing who they are as young as, you know, 5th and 6th grade, and some of them who are still figuring it out, and seeing the guidance and the teacher community really supporting them and witnessing firsthand them trying to give them that safe space. I would hope, I mean, obviously in the younger grades, I do feel that it may not be something that's addressed as young. And I did mention, I wasn't sure if there is any sort of parent support groups that you offer under your umbrella, Melissa, where families and community members who do have children that they feel might be struggling, you know, internally with some of those decisions, or figuring out who they really are. Do we have things like that in place where we can have sort of either like a peer group for those children, or, you know, starting even trickling down into the younger grades, or any sort of education to help people make sure that kids are treated equitably by themselves, you know, amongst themselves, as well as, you know, being supported by their teachers and their guidance counselors as well?
So it is part of the health curriculum. And I will also say that I know that the high school has groups. As a department ourselves, we don't, but that's a really great idea, April, and I can certainly look at that. I would also say that Jane Fondulis has a lot of community support groups. And I would look to, if she doesn't already have something, which she may, and I wish she was here, to speak about it, but she has several community groups for parents and grandparents and family members that operate. And I'd be more than happy to partner with her on something like that. So that's a great idea. Thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you.
Kevin?
Just two quick questions. One, Melissa, how many staff members were interviewed from each school building?
So they chose to interview two staff members plus myself, my director, my out-of-district coordinator, assistant program director, and Dr. Shaverhood. But we were all, I mean, it was a very collaborative process over the past year that we've been going through this self-assessment and uploading of documents and, conversations back and forth with Desi and the TFM team that works with our district. We've all been involved in it. Every single special education team chair, the special education department chairs, special education secretaries have been invaluable in providing information, getting files, making sure that all of our, as they do every day, making sure that everything is organized, that everything is where it's supposed to be, that we have all the elements that are required by the regulations in the files, and that we're following all the procedures and tracking all those procedures and doing progress monitoring of the way that we track procedures that has put us in the place that we are now as compared to 4 years ago.
And my second question is, you had mentioned restorative justice, which I think is an absolutely fantastic approach to, I'll say discipline, but have staff been trained across the district with that approach? And are we just starting that, or are we in it full force?
I might let Dr. Shaverhood answer that, because I know that we have, I was just involved the other day with a student at the high school who we were using restorative justice practices on for something that had occurred in the classroom. So I know that there are staff that are trained in it, but I can't speak district-wide on that. But I know that it is something that we are utilizing, but I don't know how new it is.
Right. We're in the process of having people trained. It's not district-wide yet.
Okay. Highly recommend it, though. If it's done well, it's the best, it's the most effective way of talking about social emotional regulation. It's one of the best ways of dealing with that.
Agreed.
Okay, thank you, Melissa. We look forward to hearing back from you after you have the report.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move to the next item on the agenda, which is the report of the superintendent.
Okay, thank you. To begin with, I would ask the committee to please vote to approve the payrolls. There are two. One is for $141,302.44. The second for April 24th is for $845,701.91. I would ask for approval for the payroll.
So moved.
Second,
Okay, roll call, Kevin,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
April,
yes.
and myself, yes, 500.
Okay, the second vote for bill warrants. The first one is for the Minot Elementary in the amount of $3,316,224.37. The next one is for $417.96. The third, $371,138.96. And the fourth is for $70,294.48. So I would ask the committee to please approve the bill warrants.
So moved.
Second,
Roll call, Mary,
Yes.
April,
yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
myself, yes, 500.
Okay. So if you would just bear with me for just a second, I'd like to go to a PowerPoint. Okay, so tonight what I'd like to just share with you would be MCAS and AP dates, the NEASC report from the high school, and what's going on in our school currently. And finally, I have a little contest for you. Did you know? So we'll get started. As you know, MCAS is getting ready to start in the district, and so I've listed the dates for you. DECUS does not have MCAS going on, and we start in grades 3 and grade 4, and I've listed the dates at MINOT. When we move on to the middle school, we have 5, 6, and 7. The first day will be May 12th in ELA in grade 5. Grade 6, their first day is May 17th, and in grade 7, May 21st. And as you can see, there are following dates with math and science. Moving to the high school, we begin on May 3rd, which we've already had, ELA with grade 10. May 4th is ELA. In grade 8, we start on May 18th, and in grade 9 on June 2nd. And so you can see we've started, but we're well into the season, and we're getting ready to really have a lot of testing. Jeff, did you have your hand up?
Yes, thank you, Kim. I just wanted to confirm my understanding, which certainly could be wrong, that the results of the MCAS this year will be formative, but they will not be used in any way punish a district. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, that's what we understand.
Thank you.
Mhm. And I would also share that students who are remote are taking MCAS.
They're
Thank you.
taking them remotely?
Yes, that was changed. Yes. Okay, and now AP testing.
I'm sorry, Kim, I'm sorry. Before you go on, sorry, April has her hand up with a question.
Sorry, April.
Sorry, it wasn't so much a question as it was a comment, having a 10th grade son who just completed MCAS. It seemed to go off pretty much without a hitch. Although I was a little disconcerted that I did get an absent call because his teachers weren't necessarily aware that some of the students were taking MCAS. So he was marked absent. I mean, it was rectified immediately, but it was a little like, what do you mean he's not at school? So I give you guys a lot of credit for trying to get everything back in motion as quickly as possible.
Thank you. Well, I'll tell you, the principals and their staff have been working extremely hard to get everything ready to go, prepared. And always before, it's a daunting task. When you have COVID on top of it, it's been a very, very trying testing season. And I'm sure it's not over yet. Next would be the AP testing is getting ready to start. And as you can see, we have a number of AP classes going on at the high school and a number of tests that will be occurring in the very near future. We recently at the high school received, yes.
Quick question. I am, as Mr. Palladino loves to tell me, the luckiest coach because I have some of the highest achieving students, and 2 of them are in the IB, going for an IB diploma. My question is, are there IB exams that are also part of the end of the year process?
Yes, there are. I don't have the dates. I know Dr. Schwam's on. I'm not sure if you know the dates, Andrea.
They decided to, because of the remote nature and because of IB, they're taking their exams internally. So basically what they're doing is the assessments that they do regularly anyway. They're using those assessments with another set of assessments that the students are doing more ongoing, and then they're inserting them into the portal, and those are being graded as such rather than the typical sitting of the exam.
So I have to ask you, how do you feel about that process?
Under the circumstances, I think that, well, I would think that process would be better all the way around. So I think it's terrific, but I think that that's a much better assessment of a student, right? It's sort of more holistic.
Yeah.
And it allows for the teacher to participate and the student to think. So I'm not unhappy with that process.
It'll be interesting to see if they learn anything from doing it and perhaps modify the whole assessment process for the future. But But
But
thank you.
also, they've hired a new director for IB, and that person happened to be worked for the Ministry of Education in Finland. And so I think it will be very interesting to see how that turns out.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So the high school recently had a NEASC visit. It's called the Collaborative Conference. And this is the lead up to the big visit, which will happen in 2022. However, with this, we still get a report and an accreditation is issued, as well as what they're impressed with and what we need to work on. Now, we were issued a continuation of accreditation, which means we're doing quite well. I would tell you though, if you look back in the last one that we received in 2012, we were put on warning status. And so the tremendous strides that the high school has made in the 9 years has just been outstanding. What I will do is I will send you the copy of the letter that we received on May 5th, but I just wanted to go over some of the accommodations that we were given by the commission. They talked about our evaluation system, how our community is dedicated and has demonstrated commitment to a safe environment, that the written curriculum is in consistent format across all curricular areas, and that there's a common templates used. They mentioned the variety of assessments that students are given to show us what they know. We have built in common planning time for collaboration and planning. They mentioned the number of partnerships that we have within the school, within the community, and within the state, and how that works to support our students. They mentioned the number of intervention strategies that we have put into place, and also the counseling services which we have put into place to help our students, not only socially, emotionally, but academically, career, and college. They mentioned one area of growth, and that is in the school site plant to support curriculum, program, and the services. The last report back in 2012, we had 15 areas that we were given that we needed to work on. And so right there, I think just typifies the amount of work that has gone into our high school, into the programming, and how we've supported our students in the last 9 years, and the growth that you will see. The site, the school site, they mentioned some of the things that we've already addressed. They mentioned the HVAC issues. They mentioned the portable roof, which has been replaced this past over April vacation. The stairs will be replaced, and they would have been replaced except COVID hit. They mentioned the textbooks. We've made a number of textbook purchases. So many of the things that they had brought up for us to look at and to address, we've already done so. So we feel very good going into the next visit. We're very proud of the work that our teachers and staff have done, and we feel like we have certainly provided substantial growth. So I will get you a copy, and I also can send you a copy of the 2012 letter so you can compare both. Do you have any questions about? Yes, Jeff.
I don't have I had a question about the areas of growth, but you answered it. No, I just have a comment. I think you and Andrea and Scott and the rest of his team deserve tremendous credit. I sometimes wonder if the amount of work necessary to meet the NEASC requirements is worth it, but to be recognized in a way that many of us have felt has been deserved for a number of years is gratifying. So my congratulations to everybody on your team.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Finally, I just wanted to update you. We've had a busy couple of weeks. The DECAS, we've now have 567 students enrolled, and that's up from when we first started bringing our students back. We currently have 101 students that continue with remote learning, and we have 466 students that are in person. We have 113 currently kindergarten enrolled this year, and that's about par for where we're at in the past. On May 25th, we have the kindergartners will have an opportunity to participate in the meet and greet with the kindergarten teachers, and this will be a drive-through experience. This will replace the ice cream social. We just didn't feel like we were quite ready to bring back to the ice cream social, but we wanted to still bring our kindergarten students in. So they've been working, and they have set up a drive-through experience. I can get details for you. You certainly are invited to come and participate. And our staff just continues to work tirelessly, and we're so happy to have our students back. And everyone's happy to be there. The elementary at MINOT with Teacher Appreciation Week, and all of the administrators have been working to show our teachers and paras and staff how much we appreciate what they've been doing. The students still are wearing masks, except on the bus and breaks and snack time. When the breaks must be done inside, the teachers keep half the class in the room and the other half are in the hallway, so the students can remain 6 feet apart. The students are eating their lunch in the cafeteria or library, and the lunches are handed in bags to them as they sanitize their hand and walk to their lunch space. Next week is Nurse Appreciation Day on May 12th, and we're extremely grateful to all the nurses. Our custodians have been doing an amazing job in keeping all of our areas clean and disinfected. Moving to the middle school, they have 390 students in person with 135 remote students. The classrooms are full as our students are seated 3 feet apart, and they're running 6 lunches daily so they can keep students 6 feet apart at lunch. MCAS, as you know, begins next week. And finally, at the high school, everything's going great. At the high school, they're so excited to have students back. They're in their traditional schedule, which includes advisory every meeting. The time in class is increased by a few minutes, so each period as they extended out, because our end time is at 2:10. They've added 2 more lunches to our schedule to make sure that our students can spread out and eat safely. Now that the weather's becoming nice, a large percentage of our students choose to eat outside in the courtyard. Our teachers are teaching synchronously so that the students that are in full remote have access to the dynamics of the classroom. And as you know, they'll begin MCAS teaching, MCAS testing, and they will also begin AP testing. So as you can see, we're very busy and we have not missed a beat. Jeff.
So anecdotally, it has become very clear to me that some students are thriving remotely, and other students, it's been a disaster. So my question is, when you give me these numbers about the number of students who are remote, I assume that someone is looking at each individual child that makes up that remote census and is trying to determine whether that child is at least doing reasonably well or even thriving. What are we doing about the kids that are doing terribly and are remote?
Yeah, we've really been trying. We have people that make contact with students on a daily basis. We've really tried to keep up that connection. We also know that we do have some students that are not successful, that are remote. We're not able to get them back into school yet because their parents have not agreed to that. However, what we're also doing is to set up a summer program that students must attend in order to move forward. And we're just trying to reach out. There are some students that need to be back, and there are some examples of students who were not doing well, and because of the interventions with the counselors, the principals, and the assistant principals, they were able to get the students back into class. So if we're able to do that with the students that are not making it, that's what we do. We just haven't had some parents that have not wanted their children back in school yet.
Kim, the summer program, is that also going to be remote if requested?
Yeah, that's going to be a really interesting question. We're looking at some different sites so we can really spread people out. We know some of our students, we need to get them back. We just need to get them back in front of us. And so that's going to be our goal. I think we're still in the final planning stages, and we are looking at how do we network with kids that need to be remote, because some have been successful. We've also looked at for next year on if it's possible to keep it remote. I know that there's some programming out at the state level to start remote courses or remote schools. I just don't think that's something that we're going to explore that at this point. I know that Dr. Schwam was involved with that, and if you want to jump in and share some of the things that we found out, that's fine.
Yeah, so the Commonwealth of Massachusetts has approved 2 virtual schools that are supported by the department. And it's similar, if you wanted to open a virtual school, then you have to also, it's like opening a charter school. So the application is very similar. And they proposed us to open a virtual school with different criteria. However, it's inflexible in that you can't have both. Like, in other words, if you have a virtual, if a student needs to be remote, then that's their only remote. You have to have a principal, assistant principal, a site, so to speak, teachers. You almost have to open up another school, so to speak, to take care of those remote students. So financially, it was burdensome. But what was more upsetting to me was that if you happen to have METCO students, for example, in your district, they were not going to be allowed to participate in your remote program because they didn't live in the town that you have the remote school. And so it was limiting, and it wasn't flexible. So for example, if I had a student who needed to be out for some time and we have a remote option for them to be able to do that, they can't move in and out of that experience, which sort of ruins the whole idea, right? The whole idea is to keep education moving forward. And so the state needs to really figure out how they're going to, or not, honor and learn from the experience to enrich the lives of our students and figure out a way to approve programs that are exactly that, not limiting, right? So that it wasn't going to do what I imagined it could do. And so with the finances and the application process and all the rules and regulations that they had around us being able to do that, it wasn't going to work for us.
Remarkably, I can tell you, I recently learned the MIAA also says that someone attending that virtual school cannot participate if they're a high school student in high school athletics because they're not considered to be in the school.
Correct. It's another school.
Exactly.
And it's a problem. It would have created a lot of problems for us, because what I was hoping for was sort of this idea that we take all that we've learned and sort of meld it in and become something even better than what we were before. Where there's this idea that there's a fluid in and out way, and we've become quite versed at virtual learning, right, and teaching. And we have a lot of tools in our bag to be able to do that. But the state just doesn't seem to, you know, their brick and mortar mentality, and they're really old fashioned in the way that they think about what I think we need to do to be really dynamic and interesting. Not to say that we're not going to do it anyway, we will, but we're not going to do it under the guise of the rules that they have necessarily. Do you see what I mean? It just didn't work.
Well, if you ever get a Zoom call with Mr. Riley, I'll be happy to join you.
Yeah. He doesn't want to talk to me, I'm sure.
Maybe you'll talk to me.
Maybe.
Okay, and then finally, this is, you know, Teacher and Staff Appreciation Week. So I thought that you might be interested in a couple of things. Did you know? So we have 211 teachers. Do you know the number of teachers who work in our district but also reside in Wareham? Anybody want to guess?
87.
Okay, any other guesses?
95.
50%.
All right, so, all right, I want to tell you though, I'm going to take the whole staff now and make it a little bit easier for you. So if you look at the entire staff, that's all our workers together, all our employees. Do you know how many reside in Wareham?
Probably 80%.
67%.
Okay, we have 179 residents of our employees out of about 390 some. So that's pretty good. All right, my next question for you is, of the teachers that we have, how many have degrees above a master's?
98%.
Okay, give me a
87%.
number. Okay, but I'm looking for a number.
How many teachers do you have total?
211 teachers.
Then I'm going to say 200.
180.
130.
was gonna say
Any other-
175. Yeah.
Okay,
198.
all right, the answer is 167. Okay, now you're really gonna have to think on this one. If you take the 211 teachers and we look at all of their years of experience and combine them, how many years will we come up with?
840.
4,200.
2,100.
A million.
Sometimes it feels like that, doesn't it? Yeah,
I'll say 2,500.
okay, pretty close there, Mrs. Bakayaki. It's 2,368.
Wow.
We have a lot of years of experience.
And we realize that I am not good at math.
So I think the essence of this is thank you to all our teachers and staff for what you do each and every day for our students. It's remarkable. We're extremely fortunate, and we're just blessed to have you as our employees. So thank you. And with that, that completes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Shaver-Hood.
You're welcome.
Next on the agenda is the report of the school committee and the elementary school building update. So we are fortunate now to have Jeff Sweat, who is also the chair of the building committee with us. So please, Jeff, give us the elementary school building update.
Well, I'll be happy to. The first thing you should know is literally every week, and we just had our 53rd weekly progress meeting, which Kim and Dave Menard and myself attend the vast majority of them. So it's an ongoing process, but when I looked in preparation for this assignment from Joyce, I saw that we'd had 53 weekly progress meetings. I won't bore you with all the details that are involved in a weekly progress meeting. I will tell you, in addition to Kim and Dave Menard and myself, There are representatives from our project manager team, which is PMA. We also have our Mount Vernon Group architects who are also always represented. We have the Bacon Group, which is the general contractor. Chris Smith from the fire department is routinely on the call. And believe it or not, it's routine. Now, maybe this is because there's Zoom. We also routinely have MSBA representatives. I really like it when they show up because that gives me an indication of whether they're still happy since they're paying much more than half of the bill. So they are very happy with us. It's an outstanding project for them. We saw that at the what did we call that, where they put the highest beam on the school. We had a little ceremony. They were there. So bottom line is these meetings are very well attended. They are very detailed. They go into things like what's the status of the terrazzo floors and the lockers and the ceilings, and are we starting up the generator, and are we on permanent power versus temporary power? So you can imagine the level of detail. But I can tell you, as of this past Monday, things are moving along very smoothly. We're getting into the real details. For example, the next time Rhonda Vugan does one of her Facebook Live things, you're going to see that instead of the gym being a storage area for all the things that are going into the rest of the building, it's going to start looking like a gym. So that's an indication of how close we are getting to the final process. They're going to start putting up the fence. They are even starting the process of putting up the flagpole. So, I mean, they're really getting into the nitty-gritty details that tells you how close they are to the final process. The only downside to the last meeting was the number of COVID cases has actually increased. We've now got cases involving the general contractor, the project manager team. In fact, we even had the family of the project management team, even someone who was vaccinated got COVID, which is a scary thing. So it's important to realize that even vaccinations don't eliminate all risk. But the bottom line is we've gone through all this. None of the trades, electricians, painters, plumbers, et cetera, are dealing with COVID. And thankfully, COVID has not hurt anybody terribly, and it hasn't delayed the schedule at all. So that's the detailed look at where we are. I do want to give you some big numbers, which are really in some ways kind of extraordinary. We had an initial budget of a little over 90 million, and our share of that was about 38 million. Now, for those of you who are good at math, you may remember that we were getting about 75% reimbursement, but the detail involved in that is it's 75% reimbursement of eligible costs. And there are some aspects of the project specifically outside the building that are not eligible for reimbursement. So we're still getting a really nice chunk of money from the state, but it's not precisely 74.8 or whatever it was %. But here's the most important thing. When we budgeted this, we thought it was going to cost about 82 cents per $1,000 of assessed value. So for those of you outside, listening and have a home in Wareham, your tax bill will tell you what your assessed value is. So if you divide by 1,000, you'll get the number of thousands. And then you multiply that by 82 cents. And that was the increase. Now, remember, that's the annual increase. We get quarterly tax bills, so you can divide that number by 4. So our budget was 82 cents per $1,000 of assessed value. This deserves a drum roll. Does anybody have any idea what the cost now looks like it's going to be? Remember, it was 82 cents. Anybody want to guess what the cost per $1,000 of assessed value looks like it's going to be?
I'll guess 45 cents.
Kevin's laughing because he thinks it's way too low. What's your guess,
I
Kevin?
do. I was just going to say 75, so you can have better news.
Okay. We are now expecting it to be 36 cents.
Wow.
So we have gone from 82 to 36 cents. It's not absolutely carved in stone because it depends to some extent on how much of our contingency we spend, but even the amount that we're spending in the contingency has been very modest. So that is the most spectacular number you're going to hear from me in this update. And it's a credit to the taxpayers that they said yes to spending 82. So they deserve that 36 cents because they stepped up. And now I think the project management team has done a terrific job. Now, I have to admit, part of this was luck because the interest rate on the bonds plummeted from somewhere in the 3% plus range to down to, a third of that. So but the bottom line is it's going to cost about less than half of what it was initially going to cost. The interesting thing is, I will just add, is that at the time we did the budget, the average single family home was 211,000. Guess what? It's no longer 211,000. It's now up to, 258,000. It's going from 258,000 to 304,000 as an average cost of a home in Wareham. Maybe that's because we're building such a beautiful school. I'm not sure, but the bottom line is that means that the average family was going to spend 211 per year. It's down to 109. So it's still almost half of what we expected, but that's only because the cost of the average home in the town has risen really nicely. I could go on. The bottom line is it's going to be a beautiful building. It's going to be fully air conditioned. All the halls will be terrazzo. And to me, as Kim and Andrea and Joyce knows very well, we're going to have a beautiful forever map of Wareham in the lobby that will be impregnable to even kids' shoes as they walk around the building. So it's going to be a spectacular building, and I think everybody should be very proud of it. Oh, and we are still looking at a substantial completion date in mid-September. So, by the way, part of the reason that we got such a great price from our general contractor was that we didn't insist on a September date to open. That gave us a lot more flexibility, a lot more bidders, et cetera, et cetera. So Kim deserves credit for saying, fine, let's do it in January. Well, now Kim may actually have the ability to open around Thanksgiving, but we'll leave that up to Kim because it does look like mid-September is going to be when it's going to be substantially complete. I think I've talked enough. Thank you, Joyce.
Well, thank you, Jeff. I just was going to say two things. This item is on our agenda every week, so feel free to save some information to say, to share next week and the weekend, the next meeting. And so you said that the building will be ready mid-September. When will that amount be set? When does that happen?
I am told by John Foster, our treasurer, who is also thrilled with the way this project is going because he's been able to borrow money so cheaply, is that we're already feeling it. That some of this, and the reason is because we've had to borrow money. So it's been, my guess is people have not really noticed it much because it's so much smaller than we anticipated. But in fact, it's already partially in our bills.
Okay. Dr. Shaver-Hood, go ahead, sorry.
No, I just wanted to say, we really are coming down to the end post because I'm ordering small wares now. We're going through, our teachers have been able to submit different items. We're putting them together. It's getting into the really crunch, exciting time. So there's been a lot of hard work by many people, and we're so grateful for the support from the community because the building is beautiful.
I will add one thing. People need to remember when they drive down Minot Avenue and they see this enormous building, they have to remember it's two schools. We took two schools and we merged it into one. And that's why it looks so big. But it's going to look even better as they start to the landscaping.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any questions? Kevin?
Could we get a late afternoon tour one day, perhaps again? Or are they still busy putting in floors and stuff that we couldn't access it?
So here's the nitty-gritty truth about access to the building. The general contractor has control of the building, not the school building committee, not the school committee, not the town of Wareham. And so they have basically said they want to very much limit who gets into the building. So right now, we're pretty much restricted to these Facebook Live events. But trust me, as soon as we can get people into the building, such as the school committee, I'd love to give some senior citizens a tour because they were critical in, I'm being attacked by my dog. They were critical in getting this process through the debt exclusion. So bottom line, Kevin, is as soon as we have control of the building, your wish will be granted.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions? Nope, then we will move on. Does anyone have any other business to discuss that was not anticipated? Seeing none, I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a
Second,
Okay, roll call, Kevin,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
April,
Yes.
Jeff,
yes.
and myself, yes. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
Thank you.